Hello and welcome to the Life Coaching on the Move podcast. I am Dawn Fisk and each week I will discuss a different life subject that is relevant to each and every one of us. I will include thought-provoking experiences both from my own life and from the hundreds of people I've coached over the years. I will give you essential tips and strategies that you can use in your everyday lives in order to grow your inner confidence, achieve your goals, feel happier in life, have better relationships and social skills, and a much higher sense of self-esteem and worth. I'll be on your team, coaching and supporting you along the way, reminding you of what works and what to avoid. You can tap into the podcast wherever you are and whenever you feel it would help, and together we will keep you on track, focused, constantly moving forward and improving with much more determination, feeling the way you deserve to feel, and generally achieving overall increased happiness in your life. Welcome along. So, without any further hesitation, let's move on to this week's subject. Today I wanted to talk about troublesome relationships. Whether that's friendships, within families, loved ones, intimate relationships, whatever they are, even work relationships, particularly work relationships actually, I don't know why I said even. It's the interactions we've got between, regular interactions between people within our lives, and sometimes they can become troublesome. And that's often a subject that I end up coaching on because people are upset. It might hurt them, it might upset them, it may cause anxiety, all sorts of emotional investment within these troublesome relationships. And the solution that we often reach and where we start heading is about forming boundaries. The need for all of us to have healthy boundaries and self-care. If we have healthy boundaries and other people are aware of those, it's so much better for our mental health. It's better for our relationship. It helps us avoid burnout. It gives us a better identity. It makes us feel more in control. It's better for all. So it's not only just better for us, it's actually better for that dynamic, that relationship. So having healthy boundaries is a really wise thing to do. The other side of that coin is having no boundaries or very loose boundaries can be very unhealthy. It's got a poor potential influence on other people's behaviour towards you. It's not good for our emotional health. It's not good for our mental health. It leads us to burnout. It encourages us, or it's often involved with us being people pleasers. We don't tend to say no. We don't tend to lay down those boundaries. We don't tend to have those rules, and we get walked all over. We get treated badly. So that is why there are so many advantages to having healthy boundaries. So how do we get them? We talked about why, now how? Well, half the battle, like everything else that we cover on this podcast, it's the same thing, the same theme. It's dependent really on awareness, self-awareness. We need to be self-aware about what we will accept in our lives, in our treatment from others and our relationships, what we will give it, what we will accept, what we will take from others, behaviours, actions, things like that, and what we won't. So once we're self-aware of what is acceptable in our lives and what isn't, we are then able to communicate that to others. So we come full circle to the things that we've mentioned before. We need much more self-awareness. So to have those healthy boundaries, it's about self-care. So the everything is intertwined, isn't it? So many things of what we've covered in other podcasts under other umbrellas falls into this. Self-care, self-awareness, because otherwise, if we have poor boundaries or no boundaries, we end up feeling resentment, potentially. We end up feeling angry, potentially, burnt out, a victim, maybe. It's all negative potential emotions from different relationships. If we've got clear boundaries, if we communicate those boundaries, if we're aware of those boundaries and others in our lives are, we've got much more fulfillment, far less stress in both our professional life and our personal life. So we've got to decide in advance what our boundaries are. So if you haven't got clear boundaries at the moment, the key takeaway that I would say from today is to start working on the self-awareness of what you've perhaps been feeling stressed about or resentful about or angry about or hurt about within any dynamic, within any of your relationships, whether it's with your mother, your colleague, your loved one, your partner, even with children. Children need boundaries. Children need to know what's acceptable, what's not. Pets need to know that. We all of us feel more secure when we know what somebody else is expecting from us and what somebody else won't accept from us. Same with our boss, same with our team members if we're managing teams, same with clients. It's exactly the same with clients. On my terms and conditions, or at the sign off of my email, it's stated already that if you cancel within a certain length of time, what will happen, etc. So people immediately know the boundaries, for example. This is important for you if you've got a relationship that's troublesome in your life, that's causing you upset and resentment and anger or poor mental health or negative emotion around it. It will have something to do with loose or non-existent boundaries, one way or the other, yours or theirs, and those, therefore, unacceptable behaviours are happening. Let's say someone always upsets you when you go out, or they're always late. I hate that. That's a pet hate of mine. When somebody is always late, when you know that person is reliably unreliable, you know in advance, they're going to be late, they're going to be 20 minutes late. And maybe you might joke about it. You might say to them, well, we'll meet at 7:30. But actually you meant 8, and you might joke and say, well, we were all meeting at 8, but we told you 7:30 because you were always late. That's a kind of passive-aggressive approach to tackling the fact that they're constantly late. It's so disrespectful. I saw this. I was watching a new program. I think it's new. It was the first time I'd ever watched it, called Lodgers for Codgers on the TV yesterday, where some elderly people have got quite large homes and they're quite lonely. And so this program is all about them letting out a room to a young person, very young person who can't afford to get on the property ladder. So it's called Lodgers for Codgers, and how the young and the old can live together, share what they can learn from each other. It's a bit fly on the wall kind of insightful, one of those programs where you watch them for 5 days when they share a home and how they impact on each other. And there was an older couple that had a young girl, but she was constantly taking ages and ages and ages to put her makeup on upstairs and not come down, to take 25 minutes when they'd agreed a time that they were going to go and get the supermarket shopping, all of them together, and take responsibility for that, or a chore in the house or something like that. And I loved the way the lady dealt with it. The girl came down all flouncy, sorry, huggy, kissy, and went to give her a hug, which was clearly her way of dealing with anything, or airy-fairy, as the older lady said. And she was having none of it. She absolutely was having none of it, and said, no, you don't give me a hug just because you left me waiting for 20 minutes. That doesn't make it right. do you think your time is more valuable than my time? Do you think I've got nothing to do for 20 minutes while I just sit and wait here, and you can walk all over my time? My time is as important as your time. And if we've agreed a time, then we respect each other. And she was really firm. She had such clear boundaries. And that girl didn't do it again. When they agreed a time for a chore or for breakfast or for dinner or whatever, she made sure she was on time, because she set those boundaries instantly, clearly, and no messing around. She was not going to tolerate just her airy-fairy approach. I think that's what she called it, of give me a hug and now it's all right. It's not. Brilliant example of how someone can set clear boundaries from the start of what's acceptable and what's totally unacceptable to her. And there was no confusion whatsoever in anybody's viewers' minds about where her boundaries were. And so, of course, their relationship strengthened as a result. They respected each other's time. They respected each other's rules. It was very clear. Now, it may be that we don't all do that, but let's say, so that might be one way of handling someone constantly letting you down and being late. Or you may have a friend that's forever cancelling you. You put a date in the diary, Wednesday, 8 o'clock, and they always cancel. Something else has cropped up, or they're reliably unreliable, and you've cooked for them or something like that. And if this continues to happen, it needs to be dealt with, needs to be spoken up front. And the best way to do it is less words. The clearer you say it with less words and straight to the point, the better. Yes, there might be upset and resistance from that other person, but you maintain that with the broken record kind of approach of, you've done this to me now 3 times. I've had food ready. I've gone out shopping. I've had food ready for you. We've put a date in the diary. You've let me down 3 times. This cannot happen again. I won't accept this again. It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful of my time, my effort, my money, etc., etc. To be clear, absolutely clear. Or let's say you have a friend or a relative or a loved one that always misbehaves. They behave badly out with you in public. They say they're rude to the staff, the waiters, the waitresses, something like that. Or they obnoxiously, rudely and very loudly always send the food back, and it embarrasses you and it embarrasses the staff, everybody, and you dread it. Then it needs to be spoken about. If that's one of your boundaries, I am not going to be party to this anymore. You're rude, you're disrespectful, you've upset them, you embarrass us. We're not having this. If you do this again when we go out, we're not eating out with you. We'll eat indoors from now onwards, because it's unacceptable behaviour. Something like that. Absolutely having your boundaries. Same with your team. Same with your managing upwards, downwards, whatever. If work always expects you to stay late and they get stroppy when you won't stay late, you need to set those boundaries. Look, I have children, or I have a life outside of here. I have other commitments. I am prepared to be here 8 till 6 every day. That's my contract, and I will work really, really hard. Full commitment. But I cannot work beyond 6 because I have a life. I cannot do that, and you shouldn't expect me to. It may be that you've got on occasions that you are prepared to break those boundaries. For example, even though my terms and conditions are that within 24 hours if there is less than 24 hours notice, they have to pay in full. But once I've built a relationship with a client and we've got rapport and they're always reliable and they're always on time and they're good, I understand their life, I understand what's going on, and something genuine happens, then there are occasions where I'll waiver that and say, look, just reschedule for the following day, something like that. Don't worry, I understand. But I won't allow that to happen consistently. I won't allow that to happen until that relationship's built up, etc., etc. Have to have those boundaries, and they have to know that too. Otherwise, you're going to get unreliable clients that are constantly doing it. And you can't run a business like that, because you can't fill that slot and other people wanted that slot and you've turned them down or pushed them back or whatever. You can't mess people around like that. So but I remember I had a hairdresser. I've just remembered I've had a hairdresser, and I went, isn't it bizarre how loyal we are to our hairdressers? I went and got my hair cut somewhere else. I was travelling, I think. I think I was away at the time. It looked terrible. I wanted my fringe cut, etc., etc. So anyway, I had it done spontaneously somewhere else. I then saw my hairdresser, who was a hairdresser stroke friend-ish, kind of relationship. I knew them and chatted to them and etc. And I felt horribly guilty. Isn't it weird how guilty we feel when we feel we've been unfaithful to our hairdresser? I literally felt like that. And I started, waffling and saying, oh, yeah, I was away and I needed it and I was going to a do. And her words were, you get one strike. You've had your one strike. Straight up front. So I always knew, rightly or wrongly, whether that you agree with that or not, that was her rule. And if I'd done it again, I would have been, I guess I didn't do it again. But if I'd done it again, I guess I would have been sort of struck off as on her customer list. I don't know. But I loved the way she up front said that straight away. And then we didn't need to talk about it any further. The conversation was closed. It nipped in the bud the awkwardness. I knew, it was very clear. I knew up front where I stood. It was then my choice. So actually boundaries can really, really help. It can feel awkward, it can feel wrong, but once they've been set and once you know and once you've decided, when you've got that clarification in your own mind of I'm not accepting this scene anymore with this, I don't know, brother-in-law or whoever it is that always, or friend that always embarrasses you in a restaurant, once you've said, I can't, this embarrasses me, I don't like it, I feel awkward, I don't want to come out and be part of this again. If it happens again, I'm not eating out together with you again. We'll have to eat in. Then they know. But the importance is you stick to that then. Same with work. You might occasionally work beyond 6 if there's a real urgent deadline. But beyond that, it's not something you're prepared to do regularly. And work will very quickly get used to that. But if we've got loose, fuzzy boundaries or no boundaries, they will expect it every day, frown upon it when you don't, and they just take. The trouble with having no boundaries are human nature is they'll just push and push and push. It's like kids. When children have no boundaries, they will just push and push and push. The minute they know they can't do this, they can't do that, that's unacceptable, they feel more secure, they feel safer, they've got that understanding, that knowledge, and they know where they stand. And so do you as a parent or an auntie or a godparent or whatever it is. I remember that reminds me, actually, when I was a kid, I remember we used to have this rule that you couldn't open your Christmas presents early. We all had to wait. We all had to be up. We had to be dressed in our house, breakfasted, all cleared away, tidied up, the turkey in the oven, everybody all done up nicely, dressed up nicely on Christmas Day. And before relatives arrived to visit, we would have a kind of a present opening session all together. Mum, dad, brothers and sisters, all together. Shared experience, fun, and then we would then get on and sort the rest of the lunch. But one year I remember I was quite young. I don't know, maybe I was 6 or 7, something like that. My brother woke us all up in the middle of the night. There were 4 of us, 4 children. He woke us and said, Santa's been. So we snuck downstairs, all 4 of us, to see, the piles of presents, etc., and to have a little feel and a prod and shake of the gifts. And I saw a present. I don't know what attracted me to the shape or the size or whatever, but I started unwrapping it, and I got caught. My mum caught us. She heard the noise, came downstairs and caught me opening this present. She was not impressed, I have to say, not impressed at all. So much so that she took that present away and I never, ever saw it again, ever. But I never, ever did it again either. My mum, because she had 4 children, she had strict boundaries. she was probably stricter as a parent than I am, but actually I don't think it did us any harm whatsoever. Looking back, we knew exactly where we stood, and perhaps it was good for us. And I have never opened a present early, ever. I wouldn't now, still to this day, ever open a present before I was, handed it or given it, or it was my birthday or it was Christmas or whatever. Same too, actually, with my children. We have the same rule with our children now, that on Christmas morning we're all dressed, we've had breakfast, and we have the same thing. They've never had to test it the way I did. But I think that was a healthy learning. We learnt that boundary. We never stepped over that boundary ever again. So it's important we need to know what's acceptable, what upsets us, what really causes us problems in that troublesome relationship, why we are pleasers, why we keep giving, getting walked over, getting upset, getting let down. If you have that in your life, in lots of relationships, or in particular relationships or friendships or work relationships, then it will almost certainly be because you haven't got clear boundaries. Maybe you don't know what they are, and that needs some self-awareness, and you need to make some decisions. Then it needs to be communicated clearly, outwardly, gently, clearly, and firmly, and then you need to carry them out. So, for example, with my mum, with the present, I never saw that present again. It never needed to be dealt with again. I learned immediately. If, for example, that person that misbehaves in public or is always a moaner or causes scenes or whatever, if you stop that mid-scene and say, I am not doing this anymore, I do not want to be party to this anymore, this is unacceptable behaviour, we have to behave like adults and respect other people and deal with this in a different way. I'm not going to be party to this bad behaviour and this scene again. I'm therefore leaving, or I think whatever is going to happen. If this happens again, we will no longer eat out, or whatever it is. It needs to be communicated clearly, and you need to know what your boundaries are and stick to your boundaries the majority of the time, unless there's exceptions, like at work. If there is a really, really pressing deadline, you may decide, I'll do it on this occasion. I can see we're under real pressure. We need it on this occasion. Or with a client, yes, of course, don't worry, you're a regular. I know you can't help this. I understand. I totally understand. Let's reschedule and sort it out. Don't worry on this occasion. So you can have some leniency in there, but as long as they know, they understand, they accept it, it's spoken, it's upfront, it's agreed, and the boundary is still there, then you will feel so much more in control, so much happier, so much healthier. They will respect you more. You will respect you more. And actually what will happen, that relationship will improve. Just as when children have boundaries, their behaviour improves. So it's a win-win. It can't be a negative. Because if they don't accept it, and they do behave like that in a restaurant and you leave, well, you've left. So you're not being dragged into it anyway. So whether they do adapt to your boundaries or not, you've set your boundaries, so you've set the consequences and what will happen, and therefore you've taken yourself out of it. So just don't over-explain, set the consequences, stick to them. So that's the rules, really. Work out what they are, what your boundaries are, communicate what they are in advance. Don't overspeak it, don't over-explain or overcomplicate it, stay simple, set the consequences and then stick to it. And watch how people will respect you more as a result. Watch how your relationships will improve as a result. Watch how you will feel better as a result. It's a win-win situation. So you've just got to have those honest conversations. You've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to be honest with them. And then you've got to stick to it. So, good luck with that. If you want to share your experiences and your successes or queries, then drop me a line, as always, dawn@milestone-coaching.co.uk. If you want to have a look at the website for all sorts of things that are going on, or the blog, or workshops coming up, or online courses, then look at the website www.milestone-coaching.co.uk. I am continuing to run the 7-week modules on life skills and confidence. So they're on Zoom. If you ever want to be part of group coaching for life skills and confidence, then drop me an email or look at the website and sign up via the website for the next. It's ongoing, rolling on. I'm in the middle of one now, but there will be new dates coming up soon. So if that is of interest to you, it's a great way of getting coaching, but sharing the cost. It's a slightly cheaper method. And you get so much from the other people in the group. So you hear what they're dealing with and how they're coping, etc. You learn from each other. It's great. They're small groups, very friendly, very manageable. It's not threatening or scary. And you come along leaps and bounds, all of you together. There's usually sort of about 4, 5 or 6 of you, a manageable, lovely, safe number for 7 weeks. However, if you don't fancy that, I am in the process of filming the whole workshop. It will possibly be less than 7 modules because there's less interaction. So it will probably end up being around about 5 modules, an online program that you can download and do yourself by yourself. So there's different ways of going about life skills and confidence, or of course, as always, if you want one-to-one coaching via Zoom or face-to-face if you're local, then of course I'd be more than happy to work with you. You can have just one session if you like, and if you get what you need from that, then great, or 2 or whatever. You're in the driving seat. So have a little look at the website, drop me an email. If there's any subject you would like covered on the podcast, then you, again, drop me some suggestions. In the meantime, today it is August the 31st, the time of recording this and going out. My time management for busy people and my 7-module advanced stress management online program are both for sale. As always, they're always for sale for you to download online learning. But at the moment, because it's still August, they're on offer, the price cuts. So if you want to grab that bargain now before they revert back to their normal price, then quickly have a look at the online programs. You download them, you then own them, and you can do them as often as you want, revisit them as often as you want, work at your own pace, in your own home or in the office or wherever. So they are definitely worth having, with some great stuff inside both of those. Anyway, I will stop talking now. Have yourselves a great week. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. Looking forward to talking to you on the next episode. If this has been useful to you, please share it with your friends on social media, or let people know, or write a review so that other people can find it, because it may be just what they need right now. That would be really kind of you. That's all I ask in return. Have yourselves a good week, and I'll speak to you soon.